Hey, pleasure to meet you in face to face. We've
You too.
talked on the internet.
Yep, see all the time.
Would you be interested in going next?
Sure, I can lighten it up. Obviously, the pressure is. I'm going to take the pressure off of everybody else because I've been blown away by the work that all of these gentlemen have shown so far. I'm anxious to see some of the other folks, Heather and so on, that are waiting in the wings. So I can go fairly quickly.
Okay, I'm dying to see this this dollhouse camera that I saw some things on Instagram from Heather, but I'm also very curious about the things that are behind you right now.
Oh, the pinball machine, you mean? That's
oh, that's not a pinball machine camera?
Yeah, I do have a camera up there. And I'd be happy to share what I've done with it. This is a...
hey, Denny, before we get to talking about your cameras, can you tell us a little bit about yourself, what you do, how you got into camera building?
Sure. Well, my name's Denny, and I started out as a medical photographer. I owned a photo lab for about 20 years. It was an E6 lab, a Kodak Q lab. So I've done a ton of film processing. I did well, scientific photography, that sort of thing. Then I got clobbered by digital and taught for 15 years and retired recently. So I got back into analog photography, and I've, of course, been just impressed with the different resources out there, the different podcasts. Here's Sunny 16, Vanya and Eric, and all that sort of stuff. I've just been very impressed, and I feel that I know Nick and Zendaya and Graham and you just from listening to you all and having heard you one place or another. My experience in building things is relatively recent. So I started with a camera that I loved. I don't know if y'all can see this thing. I can't really see my screen very well here. Can you see this camera looking thing?
Just back it up a little bit.
Okay.
Yeah, that's great.
Okay, good. This is a Gowland Flex. This camera I bought about 30 years ago from Peter Gowland, personally. And I
gotta say, way cool. He's one of my heroes.
Yeah, mine too. So it must have been the early 90s, maybe the late 80s when I bought this thing from him. This is called a Gowland Pocket camera. And I bought it thinking that I would love to have a graph lock back on it. And what have you got? A Gowland Flex there? Ethan?
Yeah, I have a Gowland Flex 4x5 Studio SLR, which we need to talk about. This is a big inspiration and a really kind of dumb but amazing camera that I love to take apart and never take pictures with.
Yeah.
Okay, so now I'm feeling a little bit left out that I don't have a Gowland. Okay, fine.
Yeah. Back to eBay, Graham.
We all do. We all do.
I don't have one either.
That really is a shame, because it is a fine looking camera. At least I'm happy with this. I bought it thinking that I'd put a graph lock back on it, and I'd asked him to do it, and he didn't have one or couldn't do it, or something or other happened. So I had it for about 30 years with, I would just steal the back from my Calumet and throw that on it and go out and take pictures. But it would be so unstable because of the springs and so on that I just couldn't, I never fell in love with the camera. So after I learned about 3D printing from your podcast and others, I decided, well, what I have to do is I have to make a back for it. So I did. I made this back is 3D printed, and what it is just a little visual aid here, just a box. And it fits over the back of the camera. I'll present in just a second and show you what the camera looks like without this on. But basically, this is just slapped onto the back, And then I needed to figure out some way to get film to stay on it. And the more I played around with spring backs and bungee cord and everything else, I realized that is not the way I want to go. I want something really easy, really gentle. So I made this as just my ground glass, and it slides in. And if you have a film holder, the film holder will still fit in and register. And these are just little spring-loaded pieces shaped like this that fit on the back here. If you can see, am I wiggling around too much because I have such a small?
No, you're doing all right. Hey, one tip, Denny. If you double-click your tiny view of yourself in the top right, it'll be full screen, so you can kind of see what you're showing.
Oh, that's way better. Thank you. Good tip. Okay. Oh, so now you can see the back of this thing, and the ground glass. I was really kind of pleased with this. In fact, I had talked to Ethan at one point and said, "Hey, could I buy a back from you?" And then we kind of fell out of touch, and I decided, well, screw that. I'll just make it. So I made a 4x5 back, and this is my first iteration. Then I realized, well, hell, I've got to put glass in there. That means I'm going to have to cut glass. So I realized that it would make a lot more sense to just go out, buy myself a $2 frame with 4x6 glass, and then make the back with a 4x6 opening, drop the glass in it, and then mask it off. So that's how I did that. And I'm pretty pleased with that. I ground the glass. I used some silicon carbide to just do the ground glass grinding, and I was surprised at how quickly it went. Maybe 20 minutes to make ground glass. And that is my Gowland pocket view.
Hey,
yes,
the rear stand. So one, I'm really glad that I dropped the ball because you invented something excellent because of my disorganization. Two, the rear standard on that thing, is that the original Gowland standard, or did you print that as well?
No, the Gowland standard, I mean, this piece right here, that rear standard is the original. That's metal.
Oh, I see.
I'm sorry?
It's metal.
It is metal. It's aluminum, I guess. And it is, I've got a picture I'll show you in a minute, but this piece just fits over it from the front.
Gotcha.
Okay, so see, this comes over it, and then the two red pieces just kind of hold it in place.
Awesome.
So it registers against the front of the camera, but only enough to hold the film in place, and then the film itself registers using this piece from the original camera. And so I built my ground glass the same way, and I didn't put a notch in there so it wouldn't jar the camera when I pull it out, and it just slides right into place. And there it is.
Beautiful.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. I'm very pleased with that.
I think that's a solution that's like going back to what we were talking about with Lucas is like, not only does that do the job well, very clearly, I think it's, good industrial design. I think it's beautiful.
Thank you.
Probably cooler looking than the original Gowland.
Yeah. I still like the front of it. I think the front standard is very pretty. I like the name. I think it's okay. I think the camera's a little wobbly. It could use a new monorail. I mean, but I'll probably tinker around with that and make a better base for the thing to sit on. But I'm really happy with it. I like it. And I built this thing on the bottom, this little piece, just to fit into the tripod. I bought a tripod with I forget what they call these little registration plates.
This week I've been making the female for the quick release plates from Manfrotto.
Oh yeah. Same sort of thing. So I can just take it like this and strap it right on here. and it's done. The next part of that project is to make a box for it. I want to make a box to hold the whole thing, so I can take the lens off, slip the lens in one piece, take the standard off, the standards off, put them in there, and then have the whole thing fit into a messenger bag. So that's, I've kind of designed it, but I haven't actually done anything with that yet. So that's my, but that is my next task. Any suggestions I'd welcome, but I think basically I'm going to be building a box. And the other project that I'm working on is photographic, but not a camera. So I'll keep it brief. But oh, any questions about the Gowland camera, or what I did with it, or how I went about?
I've got a lot of questions about meeting Peter Gowland, but maybe I will save those for another time.
Yeah,
if you could connect me offline.
Our conversation was always on the phone. I didn't actually talk. I talked to him a lot, but I really didn't meet him in person, get to shake his hand or any of that stuff. So it was more love from afar.
I wanted to.
I mean, I just want to say that I really appreciate the elegance of your design, because you solved a problem that I think a lot of photographers don't realize is a problem until they see an alternative. Mm-hmm. You know, the spring mechanism I definitely was never a fan of on traditional large format cameras, but I always just kind of assumed the default, and then someone like you comes along and says, "Hey, there's a better way."
Oh, thank you. That's nice of you to say that.
Yeah, I have essentially the same comment. I think the use of coil springs is ingenious, and I want to copy that for a 2x3 back, because there are really nice roll film holders made for the late model RB67s, and they don't work on any of the old Graflock backs because the little hooks for the spring back get in the way.
Yes.
So that means you have to use a modern style Graflock back, and those require quite a bit of fiddling. And you've solved both problems. You've got the ease of a spring back, but the clearance of a more modern Graflock back. That's great.
Oh, well, thank you. I'm pleased to hear that you folks approve. I'm very happy with it. I kind of stumbled across it after like 80 different iterations of the thing. You have no idea how the box of Castaways, how big that is. It's huge.
I have a 6-foot tall cabinet filled with Castaway prototypes. After I've thrown away a few full like garbage cans every time I move. It's kind of interesting. Hey, I wonder, do you do hand sketches before you go into SolidWorks or whatever CAD program you're using?
Yes, I do. I sketch them usually on 8.5 by 11 pads. You know, just this sort of thing. I do an awful lot of that. I don't know if I have any sketches of anything that I've right now. That's all programming stuff right now, so I don't know if there's any interesting pictures, but you know, there's stuff like this. You know, it's pretty crude. You put the size down, the dimensions, and then I've been using FreeCAD because I'm a cheap guy, and it's okay, other than crashing. I have to save a lot. It's like moving back into the 80s to use a computer.
I mean, I use SolidWorks and I save every 2 actions. Yeah,
that's pretty much what I do with FreeCAD. So it's all right. But no, I try to sketch stuff out. I'm not a particularly good draftsman, but I do sketch it out to get my thoughts in order as to what the thing has to look like. I don't sketch enough to eliminate most of the problems in my prototypes, so I still think, oh, didn't think of that, and end up having to, you know, lop a giant hole out of something because I didn't notice that something was intruding on something else. Yeah, that sort of stuff. But I imagine lots of us deal with the same sorts of issues.
Yeah, it's 1 week to bring a camera from a sketch to a camera, and then it's 3 weeks to get it working as a camera.
Well, yeah, I think mine is more like 1 month to 3 months. But yeah, I get your point. You're faster than I am. So
I'm not faster. I just I often say I think I'm the smartest person I know who's never had a job.
That's great. Well, any other questions about the Gowland Flex?
Denny, I have a question. Found you on Instagram. All what, 5 pics?
Yeah, right. It's pretty pretty bad.
Found you on Flickr, and there are a lot of really good pictures of the Gowland on Flickr.
Yeah.
Do you have a website or anything else that we can send people to?
I don't, but I'm going to.
Okay.
I'm putting that together, and I'd like to put. So I want to do a whole story on the Gowland camera, because I think it's interesting. I may even see if you guys are interested in doing it for the zine.
Oh, okay. Oh, yeah, absolutely.
I think it's an interest. It's not the build of a whole camera, but it's a build of an element, that and the lens boards and things like that I ended up doing.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. Modification is well within the zone of that's how we got started, or that's how I got started. So yeah, that's well within the range.
Great. Well, I'll put some stuff together, see if you're interested.
Cool.
Pretty much what I do all the time.
Great. Well, the work that you folks have done is great. But incidentally, I did, in the middle of all this stuff, I did build a camera dactyl. I ordered a. I'm sorry. Your camera is the
homunculus or the what is it? Pan? What is it? Pan?
Bronco pan.
Bronco pan.
I built the Bronco pan.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah, it's great, and I'm waiting to build the Kraken. I haven't yet done that, but I have my parts sitting here, and I'm just trying to get my stuff, trying to get my other stuff, my other project right now, which I'll kind of segue into my other project if I may, is a darkroom project, and I converted my Omega D5 or D2 or whatever it is, an old D. Head. I had a soft head for it, the round one. I forget what they call it, but it's the large diffusion head that has a 8-inch fluorescent tube in it, and I replaced that with LEDs, green and blue LEDs. And have been messing around with that. I've already got that working. I made a timer for the darkroom. Here's the timer. And this has you have the option of throwing your times in, changing the contrast, so changing the blend of the blue and green together. And it works pretty well. I mean, it powers the enlarger head just fine. And I can actually make pictures just fine with it. But I've been trying to modify the program, and it's clunky to carry this big ass box around to reprogram it and to retime it, and then to have to go down in the darkroom to test it. So I made a secondary unit. I made this little guy. Let me just plug it in. This is, here, let me get this back so I can see it. This is a little model of my enlarger timer. And if you notice on it, there's a little red light down here. There's a green light and a blue light up there. And if I just press this button over here, you'll see the okay. So that's set up so I can actually do the testing on the program, because I want to be able to change filtrations. And the way you do that is you press the pound key and you say 9, and that'll change the exposure to be a completely blue exposure. Or if you go pound 0, you get a green. I don't know if you could tell the difference between the two, but that's the blue and the green light. So if you haven't done darkroom printing with variable contrast papers, The green light is low contrast and the blue light is high contrast. And by changing the ratio of the two, you can change the contrast of the final picture. There's two ways of doing it. One is just blasting it all at the same time, you know, like 20% blue and 80% green, or, you know, 75, 25, whatever it is. Changing the mixture changes the contrast. Another way is called a split exposure, where you make one exposure with red, or I'm sorry, with green, and another exposure with blue light, and just change the times of those. So right now I can do the blended stuff and I can change the ratios and do all that stuff, but what I can't do is the split exposure easily, because I have to put each time in independently. So the program I'm working on is to allow me to do some testing and do some splitting, all, you know, basically pushing the button once rather than screwing around with entering times every time you're going to change something. So that's my project, making my enlarger work.
You and I are now something of competitors.
Oh, excellent. Good to know.
I've been working on color analyzers of late. But
well, I ran a color lab, so I know about those.
I cannot wait to see this product when you're ready to put it out.
Oh, it's I don't know that I'm going to sell it. I'm not sure I would do that. I probably could. I mean, it costs nothing if you look at this little guy. I mean,
I recognize a lot of those parts.
Yeah. There's a battery in it, which you don't need when you're working. There's an Arduino board. There's a keyboard. There's a display, and the only other thing is this little breadboard on the top. You don't really need the breadboard to do the final piece. You need some sort of a circuit board.
I love it.
Yeah, I think it's pretty cool. And once it's in a box like this, then it looks like something that goes in a darkroom.
So one of the things that I've been thinking about, I think we're using the same I2C 16x2 display module, which has blue backlight. I've been thinking about laser cutting a red filter for the top of it, and or, you know, they have this, there's a jumper over here that connects the backlight. I was thinking about sending the jumper either to a MOSFET or a relay and turning that off at times, or
you could just go here and put a switch on it.
There you go.
You could do that, and in fact,
a little more straightforward.
Well, I did it through software first, or I could push a key to do it. But it's really a lot easier to just flip a switch. So here, if I turn this guy off, I think did that turn it off?
Yeah.
Yeah, that turns it off, and you can still read it without the backlight.
Yeah, I've been playing around with like how I'm going to deal with that, whether it's going to be a red cover, a switch, a MOSFET, the jumper you pull, but one of these days we'll figure it out.
Yeah, I like the switch because you can just flip it on, do whatever adjusting you need, and then turn it off, and it's not going to fog anything. And incidentally, I just bought some $3 LEDs to replace some of my safe lights in the darkroom too, because I have these huge Kodak safe light filters and so on, and I'm forever changing one or the other. But $3 for LED, for a red LED or an amber LED that's paper safe.
Cool.
So that's any questions about this little project? I'll unplug that.
I got a question from the Gowland camera.
Yes, go ahead.
Why did you choose that system for the 4x5 back? That design, I had it in a sketch and I didn't even try it, but I scrapped it for the sort of a graph lock or sort of spring back. Why did you choose that one?
Good question. I originally thought that I wanted to use it with a graph lock back, because a graph lock back, if I assume most of you folks out there are familiar with a graph lock back. It holds 6 sheets of film, and you just go through the whole operation like this and change it. I like that a lot, but on this camera, it's just totally impractical because as soon as you change the film, you go to open the dark slide, everything is knocked out of adjustment. It's not like on the Polaroids where everything is locked in, nothing is going to move, where it makes sense to do it. But when you're using an adjustable camera, like a view camera, when you're using this guy, all these things are going to go right out of adjustment. You just can't crank them down hard enough to keep them from going out of adjustment. That was why I chose it.
Thanks. I think I can do a similar version for my design to be simpler, and the viewfinder, which was the issue I'm having, but maybe I can some sort of work it out, something similar like you, if you don't mind, because that will help me a lot with the viewfinder issue with my camera.
Sure, I'd be happy to share any of these drawings or any of the or pictures of these things or the 3D patterns or any of that stuff if you need them.
This is the point of the homemade camera convention, unconventional camera convention.
Yes. and just to email me, d.atkinson@yahoo is the easiest one to remember.
Sure.
And if you do that, or if you send me a note on Instagram, I probably won't see it for like a month. So that would be a bad choice. But any of these things that you'd be interested in, I'd be more than happy to share. I can show you pictures. I can get on a FaceTime with you and show you how I went about doing it, or whatever you want. I think I love sharing this stuff. I think it's so cool to be able to pull up a triangle designed by Ethan and just make it. It's awesome.
I do plan to share my designs, but I need to first get some cash to buy me a second printer, because mine, it's not mine right now. It's shared with a friend. So when I get the money to buy another one, I plan to share all my designs, because I like to share.
Oh, well, I don't have to, unlike many people, I don't have to make a living from this stuff. I'm a retired guy with a pension, and I don't have to do anything you want. And if I make something that takes me a year to make it, I don't have to charge an hourly rate. I can say, oh, here, buy me a roll of filament, and we're good.
I wish I could do that, but I'm a student, a broke student.
Exactly. I'm at the other end of the continuum of life.
Hey, are there any other questions for Denny? Denny, you and I have to talk about JST crimping and JST connectors at another juncture. It's kind of my explorations last week.
Okay, I don't even know what JST crimping and connectors are.
Japanese standard terminal. They take 2.54 millimeter pitch, like these standard pin connectors, but they're kind of like the connectors you'd find on a 3D printer, but with some very simple tools you can make much nicer internal connections in machinery. But that is going to bore the pants off of most people, showing you my crimping irons, but we'll get there.
Yeah, we'll get there. We can talk offline. What are they called? JST.
JST. And you're looking for JST-XH, which is the 2.54 millimeter pitch, same as like a pin connector, but they're locking for internals of machines.
Oh, that'd be great. That'd be great, because I've been using whatever I can find.